Hi, it's Kristin Tollefson, the Director of Education at the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art, here with another Art in Action BIMA from Home. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about collections. And when I look around at the place where I live and work, I see that there are things that I am drawn to or that interest me that I have made a collection out of, and other things that I didn't realize I was collecting at the time that are helping me to understand myself a little bit better. So the idea of gathering things that are interesting to you and meaningful and doing it in a way that is dedicated and helps to either make special a time or remember a special place. Those are ways that I find collections to be really interesting and helpful. A while ago, when I was a kid, I used to help my grandpa with his stamp collection. And I think collecting stamps is an interesting pastime because stamps were used all the time in letter writing and sending. Probably 50, 30 years ago. It's not as common now to receive mail, but stamps are still quite beautiful and fun to receive in the mail. Mail is fun to receive too. And so I thought I would show you an example of a collection that is a stamp collection. And part of the reason that it's so fun, here are some pages from a book that was designed to collect stamps. And you can see that images of the stamps were printed on the page so that when you actually had the physical stamp, you could glue it on to the page in that spot. So the page was printed so you could see all of the different types of stamps, and then it was up to you to find the stamps yourself and put them in the book. And what I love is the variety of shapes and sizes and orientations and the real beauty of the illustrations that are in these stamps. They're like little pieces of artwork. So finding something that's very easily accessible to you is one way to start a collection. Find things that are around the house that are easy to access. What I discovered about myself is that I have an attraction to round things, and they have come in lots of different sizes, really. I won't say shapes because they're all round. Here is one example of a way that my round object collection has taken shape. This is an old jar, and over time, when I have found things that are particularly interesting to me, I've just put them in the jar and I've saved them up. There is not a particular date that they are from or a particular spot, but when I look at each of these things, I do have a memory attached to them. Here is an interesting round object. It is the shell of a macadamia nut that I found on the ground, and you can see that it's been burrowed into by a creature who's chewed off the outside. Here is an interesting round-ish thing. This is looks like a bulb to an atomizer, which is like a little squeeze ball that would be on a jar used for spraying maybe perfume or some other kind of liquid. And this was found in the woods near my house. Another round thing is this little marble, which, pretty common, but it's just a very beautiful blue color, and it belonged with the other things that are in here. I have beads and plastic from the beach. I can see that there's a cap from a firework that I picked up off the beach. It's plastic, so that should not be circulating in our environment. A little bead that my son made when he was young. Some more marbles, a globe down here, a charm. So I just picked a place and started putting things in there. Another idea is to build your own place for a collection. Here is a collection from a very specific beach. All of these black rocks were rolling up against each other, and they're all quite round. So I folded a little paper box, and that is where this collection lies. Another idea is to use an old box. Here's what used to have cigars in it, and my collection of different kinds of nuts and seeds are in there, and it's a great spot for me to just close it up and keep it in my studio. So I'm curious to know, who's going to start a collection? What are you going to notice in your environment, and how are you going to keep track of it? Are you going to put it in a box? Are you going to put it in a book? Are you going to find an egg carton and start keeping it in there? There are lots of ways to use your collections. You might even think about doing something where you draw your collection, like Donald Evans did when he made up a whole bunch of stamps. He was inspired by stamp collecting and used his art to translate his ideas into stamps that were made up. So lots of ideas that you can do with collections, and please let us know. Send us a comment, send us an email about your collection and how you were inspired by Art in Action to start it. Until next time, it's Kristin Tollefson, and keep being creative. Thanks. Bye.